Yes, now we are live and direct, transmitting out of the COACHMC studio. What's up, creative community? What's up, actors, performers, entertainers, comedians, stand-ups, sales guys, pitchers, models, beautiful, creative, and crazy people. You're all very welcome on this channel tonight. And this is our sixth live chat this year. It's running well. You guys are always here in the chat. You guys are always giving me feedback after the shows. You guys are always kind of suggesting new topics and coming up with ideas and reflections on previous sessions we had all together. So I'm really excited and I feel really privileged. You guys are lending me your time. Welcome, everybody, to the CoachMC studio. My name is Lorenzo, and this is the place where we'll help you to shape unique behavior deliveries and where we'll help you to get recognized in the audition room to create an outstanding acting career, an outstanding career as a creative person. And whoever needs great and effective and truthful, purpose-driven communication, this is the place to be. So make sure to check out our previous videos, whether that's on acting, on communication, and having success, on art, on how to filter through your reflections, the mistakes that you did, and how to kind of drive forward whatever quest you got in mind. So make sure to subscribe to the channel as well if you're new to this program. Yes, and activate the bell, of course, so you get notified every time we publish a new video and you don't have to search for it. So I say hello to everybody who is online right now. Hello, everybody out there. It's such a blast to welcome you. And today, in today's live chat, we're going to talk about the initial condition. Whether we are starting out as an actor or an actress, whether we're starting out in the entertainment industry, whether we are planning to set out for a new mission in our life, whether that's an artistic endeavor or just a business endeavor per se. But even with business endeavors, we need a lot of creativity. We need a lot of communication. We need a lot of ideas. So the initial condition is giving you some sort of a blueprint. Tonight, we're going to carve out a blueprint, a matrix that you guys hopefully can use every time you get called to action, whether that's for an audition or for a big speech you guys have to hold, or if that's for any mission that you got in mind to use your strong talents, use your disciplines, use your passion, use your why, your inner calling to set in motion and to set a mechanic into place that works for you and that will generate gratifying moments, that will generate success for yourself. So the initial condition is all about how we start this whole endeavor and what's so fundamental about that, and how you can set yourself into this process, into this blueprint, and apply it every time you get called to action, every time you need a new solution, every time things are boiling up, and every time basically we get to realize this wonderful dream that we all share as creative people, right? To kind of overstep the boundaries of normal, of reality, of the quietness, of the conformity, and do something amazing by adding something to the culture, to the creative community, to the world out there, to the social media environment, to add something that is purpose driven and truthful and authentic and genuine and has impact. So welcome to this very, very philosophical tour that we're going to take today. That is also, if you reverse engineer this whole talk tonight, sort of an instrument that you can apply every day, implement right away after this chat is over. So leave a like for the value, leave a like for the intention of doing something great and of sharing this video. Leave a like if you already thought, all right, this is going to be interesting tonight. And I have a few questions already in the chat box. So let's see. Annie Boo, of course, one of our most favorite guests. Hello, Lorenzo. Just finished watching SDL, and now I'm ready to listen to your inspirational advices. I hope they're going to be inspirational. I hope they're good advices. It's always dangerous to set advices. Tolkien has a beautiful passage in The Lord of the Rings where Frodo asks one of the elves in the first book, like, why can't you just tell me the way that I need to go down in order to kind of throw the ring into the volcano and get rid of this cursed maleficent kind of item and device and save the world, right? Why can't you just tell me the road? You're much older, you're much wiser, you've seen it all. So I'm just a young hobbit here, just help a brother out. And the elf answers Frodo's like, advices are very, very dangerous things. Look at this. Yes, probably I am in the position to tell you where you need to go to get fast to the volcano and get rid of the ring and save this whole planet, save this whole realm. I probably could tell you that. But along the way that you might choose, and not the one that I'm suggesting, along that way, you might find certain things like obstacles, problems, enemies, adversities. And the way you gonna solve those problems, those obstacles, in order to deliver the ring to the volcano and free us all, these obstacles, they gonna make your journey successful, not the accomplishment of the goal itself. It's the procedure that will help this world to survive and win the battle against the dark forces and evil. It's not the fast express way to success that will lead us all into harmony and glory time. So an advice can also be a very dangerous thing, because sometimes we need to learn the lessons. There are no shortcuts when it comes down to artistic behavior, to art, to communication. There are no shortcuts. We need to do something fundamental first in order to flourish later. And guess what? This is exactly what the topic of this video is all about. So thank you so much for your comment. And hi, Rosita, of course, also one of our most favorite guests. It's so beautiful to say hello to you tonight as well. Hi, Lorenzo. Thanks for this new live chat. Of course, it's my pleasure. It's something that I'm truly also looking forward to have this appointment during the week, because it helps me a lot to reflect on certain topics, on certain things that I've read, it also helps me to digest and kind of reflect on the coachings that I had with my students, with my fellow colleagues, with the clients out there. It helps me to kind of get new perspectives and new ideas going. So this is a very welcome appointment for me as well. So I thank you for giving me the privilege to have an audience that I can actually talk to, because this is a very important part of my job as a coach and as an actor as well, to kind of reflect on all those things and giving you also new and informative and authentic topics with instruments inserted that they are stemming from my experience, from my reflection, from the things that I've gone through. And so for me, this is a typical win-win situation. So thank you so much, guys. I feel truly privileged that I have an audience that is actually listening to me and paying attention and tuning in into today's program. So let's leave all a comment of love. Let's hit the love emoji for tonight's session, because tonight it's all about the love. It's all about the love that we put into our passion, to our projects, and to our endeavor. It's all about the initial condition. And what is the initial condition? What the hell am I talking about, right? You see, initial condition means that you should pay the most attention to the things that come first, instead of getting distracted from what could eventually occur after you've set your mark. Because a lot of people take it for granted that they get a first grade appearance. They take it for granted that they get hurt. They take it for granted that they are good or great at something. But they sometimes, me as well, right? As artists, we are distracted, inspired. There's so much going on in the world, and so many things they catch our attention. And as an artist, as a creative person, I bet it's the same thing for you guys, right? You kind of drain inspiration from so many sources. So it's sometimes hard to kind of construct for yourself what you are actually standing for whenever you get called to action, whenever you need to perform, whenever you need to be creative. What is my style? Who am I actually, right? Because there's so many influences, so many different and very, very fascinating aspects. I don't mean that in a judgmental way. It is beautiful that we have such a choice of where we get inspired, what our resources are, and we can attack the bolder acting, entertainment industry, and powerful communication from so many different angles and corners that sometimes we can get lost in the process of studying and studying and studying and searching for even more sophisticated details and even better solutions or even more fancy gear, instead of just appreciating what the core concept of our artistic ability is actually at its core and its essential form, right? What is acting all about? What is communication all about? What is presentation, a great presentation, all about? What is marketing all about? And I think it is fundamental, especially for those dry moments in our career that we're gonna eventually hit, and that are truly necessary and super important and healthy, because through those dry moments we understand um, on a deeper level why we love our craft so much, and why it is important and essential to kind of go through those darker periods and drier moments where we probably are not sharing the greatest success, or where we're not invited to the greatest events, or where we're not able to display our abilities on on a constant basis, where we get called to action just once in a while, very sporadically, and where it's really hard to get jobs, and where we have to make sure that our income is pretty much stable, otherwise we get in trouble. We all face those moments. We all hit those low points, right? And especially there, when we realize that we have such a strong and clear purpose why we're doing this in the first place, because we've installed an initial condition that is purpose driven, that is genuine, that is authentic, that belongs to us, and we made sure that this initial condition, this fundament, really is stable and placed inside of us in form of exercises, in forms of training, in forms of rehearsing over and over again what our principles are. And that's why, before I get into the nitty gritty of the technical details and explain in a more granular way how this can be applied to you guys in your endeavor, in your quest, and your mission, I want to ask you a question. And I think this question is really like a funny question, but it comes back to the concept: what can we contribute? What can we offer? What can we add to the market? Are we really sure about what our greatest talents are, and where we are actually coming from, and why we want to do this in the first place? It's so important to ask ourselves, since one thing is for sure: 80% of the success that we can achieve in our life, that every person can achieve, comes from 5 basic things that we have inside of ourselves already. There are no new requirements needed. Everything that we already have inside of our systems, when we are grown ups, and once we've learned our craft, and once we've started polishing our skills, all these requirements are already part of our system. There are just a few modifications, a few upgrades, a few boosts that we have to insert later on while we are in the hunt, that are actually making just 20% out of the cake. That is the big chunk of it is actually what we already have. So a question here to you guys, to the acting community, let me know in the chat section down below. Can you name 5 things about yourself, about your acting craft, about your disciplines, about your talents, about what makes you special? Those 5 things that will make 80% of your future success. Can you name them? Can you tell me? Can you write them down right now in the comment section down below, and let me know what those 5 things are? Like, there's this rule in marketing: a half dozen of the solutions we already have to 80% of all the problems that might occur. That's quite fascinating. To 80% of all the problems that might occur in your life, in our life, and problems, I mean minor and major things, of course. We are focusing on the major things because they will give us the greatest output for tonight's show. But of course, it's not always very dramatic and very epic. Sometimes minor things occur, and the solution of the minor thing can also lead to major results. So it's not about drama, right? It's not about huge cataclysms, not all the time, of course. It's funny with Shakespeare, but in real life, we don't need big cataclysms all the time. But 80% of all the problems that might occur in your life on your quest while you're nourishing this dream of achieving success and creating greatness for yourself and your family, half dozen half dozen of your talents that you have already will resolve them. You have the solutions, most of the solutions already in your system. It's just about unpacking them and setting them right and polishing them, refurbishing them, having them sharp, clean, and full of contrast, ready to go to use as instruments for your daily battles, right? In order to achieve success. Rosita asks, I know what I'm writing now and what I want. Yes, that's pretty good. That's pretty deep. Exploring, living the moment, become an actress, acting also in English, and reading more. Yes, absolutely. Coming back to today's topic, this is super because this is actually hooking on perfectly. So, what is the initial condition? It is how we are treating every endeavor from the start. When we're getting our audition, when we're getting our sides, and we get called to action for a nice role, sometimes, again, I'm involved in this, right? I'm not excluding myself from mistakes, right? Sometimes we think about the fancy things first. I give you another example to make this even sharper and clearer. A lot of people, when they are trying to lose weight and gain muscles, they think about the fancy gear first. They think about shoes and sneakers and gym and subscriptions to all those different outlets out there where to train and earbuds where you can listen music to while you're training and all this fancy stuff. But actually, losing weight and gaining muscles is 80% is based on something that you have already. You don't need to buy fancy gear to lose weight and gain muscles. You need to sleep, you need to have a clean diet, you have to train to work out once a day, starting from 20 minutes on. Everything is perfect, over the 20 minutes span, over the 20 minutes time mark, and repeat that cycle over and over again. That's 80% of losing weight and gaining muscles. Nonetheless, people are obsessed about buying fancy gear and the grip and the hold of the pull-ups and all this stuff, right? And all the great trainings that you can have and going to all these different workshops and training. Of course, if you need that to gain momentum, to make some friends and having a great time and a great experience, and also creating maybe networks. Business operations are also being held in gyms. Of course, you can do that. But if you are really and only passionate about it, the only purpose of your athletic endeavor is to lose weight and gain some muscles, then you got 80% of all the responses already in your system. Sleep 8 hours, go to bed very early, and have a great and healthy and very balanced nutrition, and work out some 20 minutes a day, and then everything will happen already, and then the rest is just details. So the initial condition on how you set out for the casting shouldn't be based on all the fancy questions first. It should be based on your fundamentals. If you want to have success in life for your audition, booking that role, and once you have that role, maybe to have an outstanding and a very expressionate performance, look at your fundamentals first and how you start this whole thing. What is your initial condition? Mike Bamba, I'm a creative as well, have full focus on my targets. Very great. Ideas, I'm hungry, more likely greedy for success. Okay, after a lot of failures and dry times. Sure. I mean, if you are purpose driven, right? If you have a strong purpose for yourself, what you want to achieve, who you want to become, what you want to learn, where you want to go, what kind of wealth you want to amass, right? If you have those strong purposes, then of course it could be also translated into a certain greed for having all these things, but it shouldn't be based on the greed of having those things. It's more on the greed of putting in the great fundamental and basic work every day. Then the success is a byproduct, a secondary product that will come in automatically. The only thing that you can find is success. Success finds you once you've created a great home for success. And the great home is created by the fundamentals, by the initial condition, by setting up a wall, a great place that really holds. It's it's a very basic process. It's a very basic process because actually it is just improving yourself. So whenever we get called to action, whenever we need to go to the audition, ask yourself this: is everything absolutely waterproof about my speech, about how I sound? Have I warmed up thoroughly and extensively? Am I truly in tune with the character? Is everything all right with my body, with my smell, with all the basic appearances that I need to cover in order to make a great impression? Do I have like a full proof plan on how to get to the audition on time? Is everything set with my portfolio, with my headshots? Do I have my pictures with me, my contacts, my business card, my show reel? Is everything set online, uploaded, fresh, news material? Is everything picture perfect right from the start? Because if you start in an inclined way in such an important operation, everything else that will follow will be also curvy and inclined and not right and not straight. It will cost you a lot of energy to always compensate your initial mistakes or your little inconsistencies, or overlooking some details that are minor but major in the prospect of the whole picture. Does that make sense to you guys? Let me know in the comment section below, because the way you start an endeavor, that's how you treat the endeavor, that's how the endeavor will follow, and that's how the endeavor will go. If you start in a shaky, insecure, hasty, stressful way, then it will go on in a very stressful and very, pressurized way. It will have this image for the whole duration of the act, and it will end up as being a very shaky and confusional and very crazy kind of performance. If you start in a very steady, controlled, and sovereign way, then everything that will follow will act accordingly to that. If you start in a magnificent and a stupendous and an outstanding way, chances are that even if you diminish your quality a little bit during the audition, during your performance, it will still be on a very high plateau, very controlled, and very satisfying to watch. So the better you start, the better you end. Let me read some other comments here, guys. I see you guys are filling up the chat box. This is truly great. Annie Boo writes, I'm a creative, emotional, sensitive, passionate person. That's what creatives are all about, and artists as well. So that is already a great statement, because we need that, right, as a driving force. I'm still somehow searching for who I am. Well, we all do. I mean, read Proust, right? He wrote 26 books about searching himself throughout time. We all do. That's a great endeavor. We will never, I think, get to the point where we feel accomplished about what we've explored so far, or like having this profound and secure knowledge that now we are what we are supposed to be. What are we supposed to be? We don't know. We're just here. It's a miraculous experience. There's one of a trillion possibilities that all cells will actually condense to an organic life. So we are one of a trillion chances to be alive. We should embrace that incredible opportunity that we have, and have joy and fun and happiness comes from exploring our own talents and putting them into work, and having control over our instruments and letting them work for ourselves, and creating something that comes from our passion, from our wish of building something for ourselves. And once we have control over that, and we see the results, the effect, the cost, so once we've caused a reaction, and once we've realized that this could go on for a long time, now we are in motion. Now we're happy, because this is what we are talking about, like self-development and putting that development into work to display some great artistic behavior every time we get called to action, whether that's a presentation, an audition, a self-tape, a monologue, or just a great negotiation where you just want to communicate in a very effective way. Mike Bamba, again, thanks so much, man, for adding value to our community today with all these great comments. Um, Makes sense to me. I mean, I'm not an actor, but I take all these things to my appearance as a CEO and businessman. Sure, absolutely. I mean, in these modern times we're living, there are two major components on how we frame, on how we put our products into a context, and that context is whether fashion or acting. That's how we market things today. So whether you're an actor or a CEO and a businessman, you still need one of those two factors working for you in order to sell your product, your services, your items, and your ideas. And the better you can act in terms of not telling lies or manipulating people, but in emphasizing what's truly important to your craft, to your business, to your service, to your product, and in order to emphasize, motivate, inspire the people, your team, and creating a culture where everybody feels appropriate, and accommodated in striving and thriving for one major goal. Now you're giving purpose to people with your actions, with your communication. So whether you're a CEO for any corporate endeavor or you're an actor, I think having this purpose-driven kind of quest and having the fundamentals ready working for you and a great initial condition is always super important and very, very powerful to make an impact and to search out for that and to make a hospital place for that future success. And Ibu Rajimodi, that's something else. I think that's spam. So to be successful and to have a great successful delivery, you don't have to do extraordinary things, but you have to do those basic things extraordinary well. That's what the initial condition is. Instead of aiming high right from the start and losing your orientation and your focus and your power, subsequently focus on one thing only and make that thing extraordinary well. Make that ordinary thing working for you by treating it with respect and love and passion. What is so great about your acting craft? Think about my initial questions. My initial question, I'm still waiting for your responses, right? What are the 5 basic things about yourself that will make 80% of all the problems in the future disappear and will make sure that you will have success whenever you get called to action, whenever you need to perform? What are those 5 basic things about yourself? And don't tell me you're friendly, right? We're all friendly. It's not about being friendly. Quite the opposite. Tell me, what are the 5 most negative aspects about yourself, or the 5 most irrelevant aspects that you might think or judge of being irrelevant to your character. But most of the times, the little details, the little things that we oversee, that we underestimate so easily, that we overlook so hastily, those little underrated things, they are most crucial to your success that you might think of. I'll give you an example. As actors, we need to be detectives sometimes. When we get an audition, don't take it for granted that you get all the informations you need about the character. Sometimes things go very fast, so you need to figure out what the character is about, even though you have a very poor description given to you by the casting director's office, and even by calling them back and asking for some further details, and sometimes they could even respond to you, that's all we got, right? Even we as casting directors, we don't have any further clues, so send us something, right? Send something that you feel is more appropriate or mostly appropriate about this character. So sometimes we need to investigate. Sometimes we need to analyze the clues. What do we have? And the clues are in the speech, are they're hidden in between the lines of what the character is saying. Why is he saying something like that? Why is she acting in this way? Why is she moving away and when she's delivering this line? All these clues, they're giving us a red thread, a red line that we can follow to put something together that looks like an original product, what we think is the interpretation of the imaginary life. And that changes every time we get called to action. So our principles, they are always the same. They never change. Even if the roles are fancy, the basics that we need to put in first, they are the most important part about this. And that's always the same procedure. Sometimes the most simple and the most obvious solution is also the greatest. It doesn't need to be a very complicated and stratified and very kind of intellectual reasoning that drives our character. Sometimes it's very simple. Sometimes it's you know what? I'm gonna disclose to you tonight something that usually just happens during the training sessions that I have with my paying clients, with my students, and all the other beautiful creative people that are coming into the studio. I'm gonna disclose something that usually costs a lot of money, but it's not about the money. It's about the value that I want to add, because this topic today is so fundamental and so important to me. It's how you start, that's how you end, it's how you treat the whole thing, and that makes the impression. So I want to make sure you guys understand fully what I'm talking about. I want to give you a super important tool to kind of achieve that. So here's the thing. There are just three principles. Whenever we get called to action, whenever we need to interpret, whenever we need to have that imaginary life working for us, whenever we are lending out our energy to that speech, to that monologue, to that negotiation, to that character, there are just three basic principles. Actually four, but let's cover the most important ones first. So there is love. Your character is acting out whether because he needs love or he wants to give love. And there is fear, of course, right? We have red and we have blue. We have fear. So the character is acting out of being scared, or because he want to scare people because he's scared of his complexity and his emotions, and he doesn't want to admit that he's vulnerable, right? So he's scared, and so out of fear he's acting weird. And sometimes that can be nefarious, sometimes that can be minor, but that's the way he's doing things and he's operating. So you have love and fear, and then there is this third ingredient, and that is freedom. Sometimes the character wants to act out of the sheer desire of freedom because he wants to be free. Every human being wants to be free. Subsequently, our characters want to be free. And sometimes we promise freedom, sometimes we're in the search of freedom. So these three principles are the 80% basics and fundaments of any great acting scene, of any great scene, if you want to call it so. There is somebody who's scared, there's somebody who's in love, and there's somebody who needs freedom. And sometimes all three things can be found in one character alone, and then things get really wild. So isn't that fascinating? That from all the nuances and facets that we can watch and all the great acting experiences that we get delivered by those great and iconic actors, right? Like Alan Rickman, like Meryl Streep, like you named them, Julia Roberts, and so on and so forth. All these emotions, all these facets, all these different variations and gradings of emotions and their display and actions, they're actually based, their root is these three little plates, those three little bases where you can actually always come back to. This is the fundamental play that we're playing out, that we're acting out. It's love, it's fear, it's freedom. Let's hear another comment here by Annie Boo. Bad things about myself. I'm always overthinking. I can be awfully stubborn, really clingy, and sometimes not really capable to deal with conflicts. Well, I mean, again, it's nothing unheard of. So some of us are better with conflicts, some not, right? Some are great in explaining their emotions and being honest and truthful about their emotions and putting everything onto the table, and some have more hesitations in disclosing what they are truly feeling and opening up and trusting. Some have issues because of traumas or past experiences that went sideways or went terrible, and some of us are even optimistic when bad things happen to them, and then they just see the purpose out of them, and they just want to learn out of them. So it's always about being vulnerable. We remember Elia Kazan telling us in the actors, wow, just, I will allow myself, I will be vulnerable. I promise to myself, I'm searching out for those surprises. I'm not here to have a cozy, accommodating, mediocre life. I have great expectations. I have big goals. I have magnificent wishes and desires. And of course, in order to achieve great things, I have to risk great things, and great things will happen back to me. Some of them will be, less healthy. Some of them will be uncomfortable. But hey, I can't really pretend to have great success and fulfill myself and have gratifying and beautiful experiences, but reaching them and, accomplishing them by just taking the path of least resistance, which is not what I'm thinking that you are doing, but it's just what you are telling to me is that it's just the result of your search, of your development, of searching out for that initial condition where you can start your game. So far, so good, I would say. Mike Bamba, overthinking is something that I have to fight with as well. Don't do, guys. It's called action. It's called showbiz. It's called acting for a reason. It's action causes a reaction. And I think people sometimes are frightened to act because they are too scared about the reaction instead of putting the focus into a great action. Because once you've created a great action, you will have a great result. And that is beautiful. So don't be scared about the result. Search for the result. Here's one thing about this initial condition idea that is so, so important. It's our memory. Our memory can sometimes play tricks on us. If we do something now, like drink a glass of water, cause and effect. I have an instant memory, right? This feels good. Water is great. I quenched my thirst a little bit. I feel better and more relaxed. I have an immediate response of my body, and I can subsequently follow through the whole chain of reaction that just happened. And we are very analytical people. We get a lot of information fed to us on a daily basis. We have multiple devices in our homes and everywhere we go, basically, where we can reach out for information, where we can feed ourselves some dopamines and so our brain is always carving for more and more details. That's why we are overthinking things, because we love to have another information, another detail, another little nail, another little corner of that frame, because we think once we have all the informations, once we've covered the whole topic, on a granular level I understood everything about what is about to happen, now I can start, because now it's perfect. But guess what? Then it's too late, because I've invested too much time in investigating instead of reacting, instead of putting in some great actions into place, instead of creating a minimum valuable product that serves me to show what I'm capable of, that shows, through the filter, shows what my potential is and what I'm capable of. We have that very strange idea that once we get called to action, once we need to present something, once we need to come up with a product, once we need to go to the casting director's office, that we need to be perfect. Again, that's a smokescreen. That's not true. We need to show what we're capable of. If we are great team players, if we are great warriors, if we have a great ethic, like a great work ethic into place, if we have covered our fundamentals, because then people can evaluate if that investment is well set, is well played or not. Then they can judge whether this could be a very fruitful teamwork effort. If this can really match, then it's not about you being perfect, it's about showing your qualities and your skills. And then the professionals, then the people in charge, then the venture capitalists, then the people who are giving us the financing and the money that we need for our endeavors, then they can decide whether or not they want to invest in us, they want to believe in us. If we invest a lot in ourselves, in our fundamentals, in our initial condition, and then a lot of people will do the same with us because they believe in our initial conditions, so they want to set off a chain reaction. If we give a lot out to our counterpart, if we read in a great enthusiastic way, if we're passionate about delivering every line truthfully, as truthful as we can, then the reaction will be great. Then the whole process of reading this and doing this will be just a great experience, and everybody will acknowledge that. Whether or not you booked the role or not, you created a great culture. Again, it's about that culture, not about your individual standpoint. And how can we create that great culture? Well, it's about mastering those basics. What are the basics about acting? It's your body, it's your speech, how you sound, and how you look on the outside and on the inside. How you perceive yourself, on how you look, if you're satisfied with your look, and how you then get perceived. So these three basic things, they can be achieved already right now. You don't need any fancy gear or fancy workshops or any great and expensive coaches. You can cover this up. 80% of this, you got it already in your luggage, in your baggage. It's part of your toolbox already. You don't have to overthink anything. That's just being afraid of being exposed. You're complicit of hiding your talents behind that smokescreen, behind that cloak of perfectionism. All the isms, I'm telling you, everything that ends up with ISM is dangerous stuff, right? Stay away from it. No, but seriously, what is the initial condition? We're talking about the fundamentals of our craft, and where can we find those fundamentals? Is there any new fundament? Is there any new fundamental thing about acting? Is there any new fundamental thing about running an operation, an executive operation, a financial operation? Is there any new fundamental knowledge available on the market right now about how to give a great speech and how to involve people and how to make friends and how to connect to the relevant players in our business sector and how to believe ourselves? I don't think so. All the fundamentals have been written. There is nothing new under the sun. All the fashion is just a recycling process of older fashion. There is no new fashion. It's just recycling old fashion, putting some new little gadgets and items and attaching something that rather fits or not. And it's just a remix. Everything is a remix. That's actually a great book. Life is a Remix. I think it's the name, or it's the title of the book. Life is a Remix, I think. Yeah, great book. Absolutely. It's all a remix. It's all a remix of what? Of fundamentals, of basic principles. What is our basic principle when we are entertaining people? It's our connection. It's the relationship that we have with the people in the room and with the character on the other side of the lens in the scene. That's every time it's coming up. So what should I do, and what can I create? What kind of style should I wear? Is there any fancy move I can perform when I get into the room? No, it's not about that. It's about the relationship. It's about the relationship to the other character in the scene. Establish a great relationship with that character. Make sure you have a great connection, and you're picking up on notes, and you're listening, and you're investigating where this all can lead to, and reacting generally and sporadically to what is given to you. Then you already have covered 80% of any great audition requirements. It's creating that relationship. Fundamental thing about acting, fundamental thing about business. What is a relationship? Understanding whoever sits in front of you. How can you achieve that? By listening closely to what the other person is saying, to what the other person is really meaning, what the other person is really telling you. Not rationally, emotionally. Because guess what? They're coming from the same place. We're all, drinking water on this planet. And so that means they're working with the same fundamentals as you. There is nothing new under the sun. It's the principle of putting a purpose-driven passion behind your studies. Because whenever you're studying, whenever you're learning, and you are again coming back to this basic principle of how does my voice sound? How do I look? Am I satisfied with my look? How do I move? Am I warmed up? Am I ready to go? Am I really motivated and absolutely sure that today I'm gonna nail this? I'm gonna make a great performance. I'm gonna make sure to leave a mark. Not by putting on a great show, but being fully focused on all those little steps, on all those little single procedures, even if they look boring and so basic and banal on the outside. And this might sound like a very redundant show, but those little basics, the better that you perform them, the cleaner the performance will be, the sharper your image will resonate with the casting director, with the other reader in the room, and the better the connection, the relationship between the two characters will be, the greater the outcome of the conversation will be, the greater this thing is to watch. So any boo, Carola Pinkert, great awakening. It's great that you're back. Here I am. Beautiful. Join the show. Everybody out there, leave a like. Let me know in the comment sections, what are the 5 things about yourself that will cover 80% of the problems of the future whenever you get called to action? What is it that will make the difference? What are your greatest talents? What are those fundamental things about yourself that work all the time, that you are totally sure about? There is this, like I said, this idea that more complex things become and more we overthink them and more we go into on a granular level to study and scientifically, pick them apart, the more we are obsessed about the detail and not about the solution. We are flirting with the problem instead of investigating for the solution. Instead of coming up with something that looks like a great idea, we are enamored with the problem, and we can put so much thinking into solving problems just by sitting there. But when it comes to, displaying that, there are just a few things that are truly, truly important. And then, of course, we can add different nuances. We can add different temperatures, different missions, and make this a little bit more rational and have some, some underlying text going on that maybe is pointing into a different direction, and that kind of creates some sort of tension to the character. All these more stratified and complex ways of adding interesting layers to the characters are truly great to explore, but sometimes we're getting ahead of ourselves and we're losing our mind and our compass, and sometimes we're taken over by nervosity, and because we're not truly aware of what the great basics are that we already have in storage. We always think we are not good enough. We always think we need something else, something more. We need to change. Yeah, sometimes we need to change to adapt, but that doesn't mean that our fundamentals change. We need to adapt by looking at something from a different perspective and learning from that perspective, from the empathy and the generosity we put into our work. But then when it comes to substance, that belongs to us and us only. And we need to make sure that our substance is as clean and sharp like a ninja blade. Sing! Right? It needs to be sharp. It needs to be yours. You need to know your fundamentals. So again, it's not about thinking extraordinary things and always pointing and aiming at the stars, especially when we are getting to classical literature and mythological literature and the old texts. Then sometimes we are prone to kind of satisfy that beautiful language and then that mythical backdrop, or the poetry that is behind the lines, or the complicated forms of the complicated forms of the verses. We are overwhelmed and by the sheer respect that we have to the old masters. We venerate them so much that sometimes we take away life, spontaneity, irrationality, and beautiful ideas. We take them, we censor ourselves a little bit in the process, to kind of venerate the author instead of displaying a great show, instead of displaying a great life. Again, that comes back also because we forgot what the basics are. Play the scene, just have behavior, have something that is going on, like an action. Ground yourself, anchor yourself on the stage in front of the camera, form that little automatic daily routine or behavior you have, and perform the text at the same time. Be clear and sharp with your speech, move accordingly. Don't be too hasty, don't be too slow. and have some points of forces where you can really rely on and have a great kind of posture and say something with your body as well, and bring this steadily on a high plateau of quality to an end, instead of going all crazy because all of a sudden now you have a great text. Coming back to what is a fundament, what are the fundamentals? There are no new fundamentals. It's old stuff, it's traditional stuff, it's classical stuff. If you want to learn how music works, then you have to study classical music, and then you can arrange the craziest techno and electronic beats you can imagine. But first you have to study where the harmony comes from, where all these information, where music actually comes from. The same thing is true for acting, presentation, speech. Where does this whole thing come from? What are the fundamentals? Who wrote the first principles? Who are the great teachers of this topic, of this subject? If you don't have a good idea, then you have to go to a place where good ideas are being born. And usually that is in literature. Usually that's with great people. If you're the smartest in the room, then leave the room and go to a room where you're the dumbest person in the room. The dumbest person in the room, that's the room where you can learn from. If you have all the answers already, you're not asking the right questions. Does that make sense? When I first showed my carnival speech to friends, I was wearing a very casual clothes. My speech was okay. And when I put on my costume, Annie Boo says, I felt better about my look, about my presentation, and it was way better. That's something I want to cling into. That's so fundamental, especially to the acting experience, but also when we are presenting something in a more corporate frame. How do we look? And do we look the way we look because we want to look that way, or because other people want us to look that way? It might seem like a very banal question, but that's actually a fundamental thing about the principles and the initial condition. People dress up the way they think they should look, or the way other people think they should look. By doing so, they feel inappropriate, they feel uncomfortable. As a result of that, they have a problem with the basic way of delivering anything that comes up, because they just don't feel comfortable in their clothes. And I can understand that. If you don't feel comfortable in your clothes, if you're not really acquainted with what you're wearing, if you are looking ridiculous, if this is not suiting you or the usual way you're, walking up to people, then you're something fundamental will happen. You feel uncomfortable, and that feeling uncomfortable will translate into an uncomfortable performance. So you need to compensate that before, to get acquainted with the costume that you maybe dislike, to get acquainted with the business suit, and maybe search for some colors that you love more, or search for little details that will make you feel better, or bring something in, like a lucky band or anything that kind of belongs to you, something that could be also like a superstitious ritual going on. So make yourself acquainted with the environment so you feel perfectly fine with how and where you display your artistic abilities, in order to come back to what's really essential to you. I once talked to an actor, and he said something really inspiring. He said, "Nobody starts good enough. It's all about practicing." Absolutely. Pen drop. If you absolutely, nobody starts perfect. There is no master that's fallen from the sky. That's mythological stuff. You always need to practice. You always need to come back to your basics. I once knew a yoga teacher. I still know her. We had a band together, and then she moved to another city. And she was very, very famous yoga teacher, and she wrote many books. And I once joined her class, and I went to her yoga shrine, and it was very basic. I've expected something truly fancy, like in terms of color, or colors like lights displayed somewhere, or furniture, or like fancy magazines, or great pictures, or anything like that. It was very Spartanic, right? It was very simple, very, very reduced kind of atmosphere. And I thought, like, wow, this is kind of very, very minimalistic. And then I joined the session, the flow, and again it was very basic. It was full. The class was packed, and people were staying even afterwards. And in the beginning, I thought, "Wow, I'm not really sweating. Nothing really is going on." But then overall, the simplicity, the cleanness, the beautiful and very accurate execution of what might appears to be a very easy form, an easy flow in yoga, has so many different aspects: the way the posture kind of behaves, your breathing patterns, how you should, how you're supposed to look. And she was displaying all these very simple things so magnificently, so flawlessly, so cleanly, that it was really a joy to watch. And after a while, getting acquainted with that very Spartanic room, with that very clear and minimalistic kind of atmosphere, no big light, no big music going on, very, very reduced, very simple. But truthfully, I'm telling you, it was magical, because it was so clear. It wasn't confusing, and the execution was just flawless, right? 45 minutes of just a perfect workout, of a yoga workout. It was so fun. And sometimes, translating that back to our creativity, to the acting endeavor, sometimes just being so pure and clear about your choices and what you want to display in the casting director's office, and having a great speech, and being able to technically emphasize and rhythmically arrange your monologue and what you want to say, and move accordingly and very naturally, not artificially, and all that, and just having that simple, easy, sharp, but beautifully executed performance. And by covering all the small details of the acting craft, that can be a great solution as well. That can blow people away as well, because you sew people into your world. You have an instant memory when you drink things, right away. Again, I'm drinking, and I'm relying on that information, like I said previously. So we are obsessed about specifying things right now, and what we can achieve today, right now, what we can have as a result, as an accomplishment, as a something that gratifies us, right? And that's why we're also so addicted to smartphones, because they are giving us instant gratification. But when it comes down to art, it comes down to having that initial preparation that is not serving the moment. Your great audition that you just had yesterday, that comes from the preparation you did 2 years ago, not today, not yesterday. Of course, we're preparing for a single audition because we have to memorize specific lines, right? Because we're playing a different character all the time. But what we're doing today or tomorrow comes from the preparation that we did a couple of years ago. So the better we are initially setting up ourselves for the acting endeavor, for the business endeavor, for realizing our dreams, for learning a new skill, the better we're setting up our fundamentals right from the start, the better we can learn, the faster we can improve, and the more control we have over the process. And guess what? The lens, people, human beings, the casting director, your CEO loves people who are in control. People love other people who are in control, because we feel safe around creators, around great people who are in control, because now we can rely on that everything that happens in that aura and that area of control is not out of control. And we love safety, we love security, we love reliability, we love being loyal to someone. And that someone needs to be in control. So whether you're playing a small role, whether you're getting casted for a great lead role, it doesn't really matter. You need to be in control. And you can only be in control if you're covering 80% of your fundamentals like a ninja blade. If you're sharpening the axe for as long as you can before you're chopping down the tree, then you're making sure that you have great success. We are so obsessed about what we can do today. We're focusing on all these minor little procedures to reach something today, now. But if we are focusing on the major procedures that will take more time, that are more awarding with, over a longer period of time, and not a short outcome result, that they are not instantly giving you any success or any gratification. If we are building our success on the major things in the past, And then when it comes to collecting the experience and distributing the emotions and giving people a great and very fruitful and authentic delivery, when it comes to do that, the moment when we are really portraying, when we are really saying what we're saying, that comes from that preparation. Don't confuse the preparation with over stratifying or over complicating things or putting too much pressure and too much work in something that needs to be spontaneous and pure, because I've heard this as well, not only from actors. No, if I rehearse the speech too many times, then it sounds automated, then it sounds artificial, it doesn't sound pure. Yeah, because you're just repeating the speech. But if you are clear about the process, if you are following through on every step, and if behind every step there is this purpose-driven intention of giving the very best that you can, by relying on these fundamental principles that you are constantly working on and improving every day, then it's not about repeating the speech, but living the moment, being there. Your greatness doesn't come from because you are winning an award. Your greatness comes from practicing. That's how you attract great players in your respective field, because they see the professionalism that you're putting into your efforts. They're seeing the sweat, the labor, the passion, the tears that you're putting into your work. You're setting up yourself for a great initial condition. It's like a relationship in a way, right? People say this about relationships. You can only be as good with your next relationship like you've terminated your previous one. If you kind of ended up your past relationship with your ex-partner in a troubled, traumatic, unserious, unconscious way, then this will set off an initial condition that is shaky and built on sand with your next relationship. So that next relationship will only be as good as you've terminated the previous one. How you've ended terminated sounds really rough. I'm sorry for that term, but in a way of how you ended, how you kind of completed that previous experience, the quality on how you did this will determine the outcome of your future endeavors in a relationship with your partner. So the same thing is true also for acting, for any great endeavor. The way we're starting, we ended the last one and we're starting the next one. That's how it's going to end up as well. The more truthful preparation we put in, and reflecting sincerely what went wrong before, and the better we are becoming in getting traction behind our preparation, the more truthful and the more expressionate we are, and especially the less effort we have to put in to create that momentum. Because the cleaner the process is, the less we have to compensate, the less energy we waste during the process, the effortless and the cleaner is the end result. And subsequently, that will cost us less energy. Rosita Macarons, I'm the only one watching. No, there are 5 people watching. Anibu, Rosita, I'm here too. Yes, of course. Thanks to you guys. So you set the initial condition for every endeavor. How do you want your next project to look like? Shaky, confusional, unsecure, unstable, without any big aspirations behind? Or do you want to have a great, very clean and powerful and authentic experience with your next endeavor? Well, guess what? It's your setup. You decide. You decide how to go and where to go. Do you want to be a dictator or do you want to be a leader? Because a leader has to lead through, showing off responsibility, putting in the great work, showing off, showing up as the first on side and going home as the last one, and still studying and still tinkering about the solutions. You lead by example, not by dictating. not by fancy gear. You lead by on how clean you're approaching this and how sincere and transparent you are. Don't get lost in your memory. Don't get obsessed about the instant gratification. It takes time. It's the process, because over time your memory will fade and you won't remember all the good work that you've put in. And all of a sudden you have success and you might say, "Oh, today was my lucky day." There is no such thing as luck. It wasn't a lucky day. You've prepared yourself over years through your failures, through your setbacks, through your mistakes, and also through the little accomplishments, of course, here and there. Through all these little experiences that you've, went through and understood by re-examining, by doing the fundamental work again, to really absorbing the lessons out of all these experiences, you've put in yourself, you put in yourself into the position to find that opportunity. That's what luck basically is. And that comes from that initial condition, by being prepared and being honestly prepared, and not just satisfying your bad conscience. Yeah, I've memorized the lines. Yeah, I've done this. No, being prepared, being really there. Yes, man. OG Benny-san is joining the channel. What's up, man? This is great as well. Oh, of course, preaching. Yes, I need to, check my smartphone once in a while. I'm always here, man. Just, let's write. It's great you joined the channel, brother. It's good you're here. We're working on a little online project in our carnival club, and they all expect me that I already have a poem for this project. They rely on me on creative work. Do the work. Do the work. Little things every day. Your craft needs your respect. And your craft is built on those fundamentals. If you respect the fundamentals, you respect your craft will respect you back, and you will attract that success, because you will show people how professional you are. It's, it's how you start. How do you want to start? Again, in a shaky way or in a clear and a regular way? So make sure you start in a clear and a regular way. Take all the necessary preparations that you need. Be crazy, be obsessed, be focused, be sharp, whatever you need. But do it, because later on there will be complaints. Later on there will be explanations. But nobody wants to listen to complaints, and nobody wants to listen to your explanations. People just want to see a great show. People are setting themselves up already with a plan B when they're entering the casting director's office or the CEO office, right? They're setting themselves up with a plan B because they're already thinking about the excuse they have to come up with their poor performance. You could also say, instead of initial condition, like my man Sean Cannon from Think Media always says, is like, perfect preparation prevents poor presentation. The 5 P's. And that's true. It's the initial condition. How does your initial condition look like? Because the way you're creating your endeavor, your company, your business, that's the way it's going to evolve. If you start shaky, your whole company will be shaky over time again. And it's so hard to compensate that and to kind of reboot that system and start from scratch again. It's also true if you're working with a graphic designer and he creates like a stylescape for a presentation for the customer. So the customer chooses what kind of style, what kind of move, what kind of palette he wants to run to advertise his product or his services. Sometimes a graphic designer can get involved so much into the detail of creating that stylescape that he kind of loses track of what the initial condition of that mission actually was. And instead of repairing that, it's better to kind of, tear this thing and dump it and start again from scratch, because that already is so sideways that to kind of bring it back onto track will cost you more energy than to start a new endeavor from scratch and trying to kind of rethink the whole process again. Because there is something that I call the ability of the human spirit, right? There is something that I call, we have the ability, our human spirit has the ability to restart over and over and over and over again. It's just us that we don't believe that, but it's actually true. We can restart. We just have to be honest. Doesn't work. We have to set up a new initial condition. You have to start as clean as possible, and we can start. Don't let anybody tell you you can't do this, or you can restart this, or you can reconfigure this. Yes, you can, by dumping the old stuff. Because if you're relying on the old stuff, you're relying to your memory. Again, oh yeah, that's where I got my gratification. Now I'm stuck. Now I don't have any gratification. Now I'm just seeing problems. Now I'm just, how do I face the scene? And how can I come over as a realistic character if I have to be funny first and then very upset later? That's totally irrational. Yeah, just jump. Just jump. Just take that leap of faith. Just believe that you're making this transition. Don't over rationalize it. If you're doing this, if you're overthinking this, then like the graphic designer, you're getting lost into the details of your stylescape. Create a new stylescape. We can start all over. That's the ability of the human spirit. Our human spirit is able to restart. Look at the wars, look at the famine, look at all the cruel and horrible things that happened to human history. And still, we are able to create great and beautiful and inspiring art, great music, great content. We see beautiful stories all over the world popping up from all over the globe that are truly inspiring, motivational to us, from big achievements to small achievements. So we have the ability to restart. There is no problem with that. So what I think about your speeches, Anibu, if you want, we can talk about this in public. They need to be recorded. They need to be recorded and perceived. Because what I think about it, what you think about it, of course, you can always work on details, on being funnier and here and there, but you need to test them. You need to work them. You need to show them. It's fundamental stuff. And in order to do so, your speech can be very elaborate and very funny and could have all the, the slapstick moments in that you can imagine. But if you have a poor delivery, if you don't focus on the essentials later on, it will still be a bad speech. And then you can have like a mediocre written speech that can turn out to be a great speech because you've delivered everything on point. You were sharp as hell when you were saying the things, you were puncturizing, accenturizing, and the underlying emotion was always hitting the right anchor. So people felt triggered by but how you said it, and not so much by what you said. Does that make sense? So you might say the initial condition is also the context and how you're placing your artwork and how you're framing your talent. In a way, that's true. It is the context, because if we're making sure that our frame is steady and strong and massive, it will hold up a great and massive content, a great plate that is truly heavy. We can hang this up on the wall, and that can be perceived and admired for centuries. If our frame is shaky, if the material that we've chosen is not really the best, if we've made some mistakes by assembling the whole thing when we're assembling the whole frame, then of course even the content won't look as good, and the whole thing will maybe fall off the wall after a couple of years. So if you surround yourself with this type of substance, whether that's people, whether that's resources, then what you are doing is focusing on that substance and not getting lost with the details, and not getting lost with your critical voices, and not getting lost with any wrong expectations you might think you have about yourself that are actually a projection from someone else. Because if you are really focused on getting everything right, and you have a purpose-driven delivery coming up that is about showing what your abilities are made of, what kind of skills you have, then it's not the question if I booked a job, if this will be successful, if this is a great speech, but if my experience is flawless, if I am really in control, if I'm learning through this process. I can have better days, slower days. I can have, so like a couple of people sitting in the audience. Sometimes it could be hundreds of people sitting in the audience. It doesn't matter. I of course do it for the beauty of the delivery and for the beauty of getting perceived by the audience. But it's not about the quantity. It's about the quality that I put into the process. And guess what? And coming back to the fundamental thing, The quality comes from the quantity. That sounds crazy, doesn't it? But you need to practice a lot in order to have that one distilled process, that one distilled product that really works. If you think about Pablo Picasso or any great master of the past, look at their catalog, look at their artworks, thousands and thousands and thousands of pictures that you, me, I, the universe doesn't know anything about. But still, by practicing over and over, great artists, they know exactly, if I sketch every day, if I draw every day, then I'm not drawing for the result right now. Coming back to that memory principle, it's not about the gratification right now. My future success comes from the preparation, or the success I'm having right now comes from the preparation I did 2 years ago, 3 years ago. The unknown sketches, the sketchbooks that are filled up with the drawings that nobody wants to get a look at, these are the sketches that are determining my success right now. That great picture that gets auctioned then by Sotheby's or Christie's for hundreds of millions of dollars, that isn't actually about the picture. It's about the quantity of catalog, the quantity of work that I've put in previously. It's about the critical mass that I accumulated in the process, not the single output that I'm having in the moment. Does that make sense? It's about the fundamentals. It's about that initial condition. So slowly but steadily, we're coming to an end. And I hope I've delivered the importance of that mindset, of that tool, of this opportunity that I want to share with you guys. Because it's always an opportunity for us to learn. It's always an opportunity to translate that knowledge into action. We're thinking too much about what we can acquire, about this and that, instead of just simply asking ourselves, am I a good giver? Am I a great performer? Do I have the ability to involve the audience? Is everything that I say clear? Are my actions logical in the context of that imaginary life? Does my reaction show exactly what I'm talking about? Is the underlying current, the underlying text clear? Is the message understood? All these fundamental things are all about giving, are all about giving, are all about giving. If you are a great giver, then you will receive a lot back. If you are a great searcher, then you will find great things. If you are investigating about the purpose of your character, even if you just have a few lines, a few notes, a few words given to you by the casting director about the description, you can always find some great ideas, even in the smallest lines. If you are thinking about giving and not taking, I want to book this role, I want to have this, I want to achieve this, I want to get this. It's the practice, it's giving that makes you great, not taking. Taking, that comes naturally, automatically. You don't have to think about that taking process. It will appear automatically. Think about giving and constantly giving the very best that you have inside of yourself. Thanks for this good answer. Of course. Can we have a private chat about my speech? I'll probably show in March. Yes, sure, we can do that. And I'm really, really grateful that you guys joined me today in the CoachMC studio. Because who knows, maybe the next episode will be someone else. Maybe there's a surprise coming up. Maybe I'm gonna show you a great place, and maybe we're gonna kind of enhance this environment for the next show to give you some content value that it goes beyond the pure information that I'm giving out. And I'm just very pumped about this year, because I think, guys, we've all realized something very fundamental in those past 2 years we just gone through, and also some future quarrels that we surely have to face. But overall, we can say, I think the worst is at our backs now, and now we can focus on really giving, on really craving for a great product, on really searching for something inside of ourselves that can give potentially something to people that they will enjoy. How great is that? A few, like 5 basic talents that you have inside of yourself today already will be 80% of the, overall product that will show up in the future if you start to work on your basics, on your fundamentals right now. Then you will receive the result, then the effect will appear. Think about the term happiness. It really doesn't come from having money. It's about having control. And how can you have control? By knowing what you're doing and what is the purpose of your action. And how can you have that? By clearing out like your interview and saying to yourself, these are the principles, these are the fundamental things, these are the basic things that I want to achieve this year. Write them down for yourself. And this is how I want to achieve it. I have 5 talents that will help me to achieve exactly that. My next monologue, my next self-tape, my next audition, my next show reel, it's gonna be, it's gonna be mind-blowing because of those 5 things. And then you put them into action, you will see the result. Your memory will get back in with you and say, you know what? Now I see what the mechanism is behind that, what the system is behind that. And now all of a sudden you are creating a long-term kind of ambition for yourself. Now you're stretching. And then after that stretch goal that you've achieved, then you stretch it even further. And after that, even further. And now it becomes a project. It becomes a quality of life because it's part of your working philosophy of constantly improving yourself on those daily habits, on those daily rituals to create that culture. Culture is just an enriching environment. That's what culture is. It's your microbiotic. It's inside of yourself. It's your cells. It's your biology driving you to greatness, driving you to success, to improvement. And again, it's what is your objective? Getting better. How? By knowing what you're doing. And what is that? That is what you got already. And just refurbish that and make that world class, make that stand out. That already is 80% of your future success. Even if that's scary, because it is scary. Because of course we love the more sophisticated answers, the more freaky answers better, right? We love the if we, there's something funny going on with our psychology. Let's say you have 2 insurances. They all cover the same thing. They all stand for the same insurance, right? You have 2 different insurance provider, and the one costs the one costs, let's say $80. $80 for that insurance, for that travel insurance, for that one trip. And the other insurance that gives you the same benefits, the same services, just costs $9. And people, they will root for the $80 because somehow they think due to the amount of money I have to pay more, there must be more quality involved. Right? It can't be so simple that it just costs very little and it gives me a lot. Right? There must be some sort of hook involved with the cheaper product. So I don't trust that cheaper product. That's too obvious. That's too easy. That's too simple. Right? I trust the more stratified, complicated, fancy, and expensive, luxurious looking one, because surely there must be some more quality, more work, some more insurance involved in there. But it's not always like that. Sometimes the most obvious, the simplest things, the cleanest, the softest, the most transparent, the most easy to do things sometimes are the ones that have the most effect, the most impact, if you do them in an outstanding way. Again, it's not about aiming at something extraordinary. It's about aiming at something ordinary, done extraordinary well. Purpose, love, passion. All the time, and you will see amazing results. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but they will come for sure. So thanks so much for sticking with us till the end, guys. It was a true pleasure sharing this very, very important topic, this instrument, this philosophical instrument. It's a philosopher's stone, I wanted to say, some sort of you can use it in many ways, right? This philosopher's stone with you guys Be the sorcerer, be the magician of your own reality. Create some magic for yourself, because entertainment is all about magic. You can't always break it down in a rational way. Sometimes it's about the passion, it's about some fundamental things. We want to get involved, we want to escape, we want to have fun, we want to get scared, we want to fall in love, and we want to have the freedom to explore these boundaries in our head for 2 hours straight whenever we're seeing a great show, whenever somebody is giving out a great show, whenever somebody is sharing his passion, his motor, his engine, his purpose with us. And now we're part of this travel, of this quest, of this engine. Now we're traveling together. And this is the most beautiful part. So let people hop on their bus, on your bus, take them with you on your tour, make a great and safe home for success. You will attract it because you've worked on the very simple, basic thing that is called the fundament of that architecture, where you want to welcome success. The architecture doesn't start with the fancy ornament on top of the tower bell, of the belfries. It starts with ground. It starts with soil. It starts with water. It starts with very big chunks of rock, of the cornerstone that creates that first static. And that is very simple. Sometimes the solutions are simple. And that is the beauty of art as well. It's just about the intention that you had. How many times you're going to the modern museum, you're watching some contemporary art, and you're saying, yeah, I could have made that. I could have made that. That's so simple. Yeah, but you didn't. Somebody else came up with that idea because he had that intention. It's so simple. It's so focused. It's so fundamental that it's sometimes it's even laughable, right? You say, well, it was so obvious all the time. If you want to hide something from everybody's eyes, you have to put it into plain sight, because nobody will actually deduct that thing that is so obvious is the solution to everything else. Because usually we're looking for the mysteries and for the dark corners and spots and the stuff that is, kind of extraordinary to find some great answers. Yeah, they are sometimes in plain sight. Sometimes when things are so complicated, they get invisible, and then you don't see anything anymore. So don't overcomplicate things. Get back to yourself, get back to the basics, get back to that wish of yourself to really impact the audience with your instruments, with your fundaments, because they are strong and they're always different. They're always yours, they're always unique. They're always your way of showing what you got and what you want to achieve and how you want to get there. And just show them. Just show them. Don't tell them. And never explain yourself in the process, because the explanation is the character. It's so obvious. They are all pros. Everybody knows what you're doing. You don't need to explain it. Because if you're explaining it to yourself. That shows that you haven't done your homework, because you weren't clear enough or clear about what you really want to portray. But if that is clear, you don't have to explain afterwards, because everybody can judge. Everybody has a controversy going on in his life. Everybody can say something bad or negative or positive about something. Everybody can disagree or agree. It's not about agreement. It's about entertainment. And we can all agree that was great entertainment. Whether or not we like that person, or we share his political thoughts or his opinions or his strange behavior or its exalted way of living, whatever, I don't care. I'm agreeing on what he's showing to me, not what other people are telling about him. And that is the impact that he gave me. And that can be so simple. It's about the impact. It's about delivering an emotion. So have a great time, guys. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't so far. Jump to my YouTube channel. It's the Coach MC. And jump to my YouTube channel. Jump to my Instagram channel, guys. I'm sorry. I'm kind of losing here. Sugar. Jump to my Instagram channel. It's the Coach MC. I got some nice adventures going on there too. Some art stuff going on too. Check out my other videos about creating a great character, about memorizing the lines, about being a realistic actor, about making so many great resources on this channel available. And if you need to come down a little bit, maybe you check out one of our drawing playlists or meditation playlists. They're always good to kind of restart the whole endeavor, right? That human spirit condition that is so beautiful. write me an email also. Yeah, there is this thing called email, and you can reach me through my website. It's the coachmc.studio. If you have any questions, if you want to start like a nice artistic adventure, whether that's a self tape, whether that's a show reel, whether that's a monologue you want to record, maybe you want me to have like some sort of a critique going on about your material, what to fix, and maybe we can collaborate on some sort of way. So let's have like a free trial class. Let's find out if we're a great match for each other. Let's find out if our artistic abilities meld together can result in a great product. And if you have any other further comments or questions, just place them down below. Activate the bell if you haven't so far. Subscribe, of course, to this channel as well, because that helps us a lot to make this endeavor like going on forever. We wish for. No, but seriously, it's always nice to have your feedback. But of course, if you could share this with also other people of your creative community, and if you can invite them over to the channel, so to subscribe to our content, that could help us, of course, immensely to kind of boost our content, to kind of spread our word, our information. And if you find it valuable, then somebody else might find it valuable too. And that's about creating that network, that creative community, to get better, bigger, greater, and to go further all together. See you next time, guys, maybe from a different location. So stay tuned. I'm really pumped for what's coming up. And thanks to everybody who was here in the chat, to Annie Boo, to OG Benny San, to Rosita Macarons, Carola Pinkert, Mike Bamba, to all the other people here. Thanks so much for staying with us till the end. See you next time, guys, with the next video. I guess now you're ready to perform.